But yeah, I think maybe that's something to do with, again, I'm not putting it as Bond as the cause of all this, but he's definitely a character from...
Bond's going to have a real beef with you after this series.
Well, no, I mean, yeah.
He's going to turn up one day.
Yeah.
He'll
have to stop sobbing first.
He will, yes.
No, if you look back at the kind of colonial England and the idea of what a British man is, he's still that. He's still an imperialist. He's still someone who wanders into other people's countries and takes over.
Right, yeah.
Who has survived, and despite kind of feeble attempts, normally during the Brosnan era, to let's make him question himself for about 30 seconds.
As he looks over the dead naked woman and goes, that's a shame. What a waste of perfectly good ass.
Yeah, exactly. Or we might make him hurt his shoulder to show he can.
I dislocated my shoulder killing that woman. What a waste of a perfectly good shoulder.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The humanity of it all.
He's still, back to what it was. And although it may seem that I dislike the Bond films, I don't. I actually quite enjoy the fact that, in a kind of...
Is it just that you feel soiled afterwards? Is that really where all this comes down to?
I know. I think they are films that are not... I think they're mismarketed as kind of summer adventure films, and they're not. They're actually quite adult films, regardless of the lack of blood or actual nudity. The subject matter is actually extremely dark and should not be on Boxing Day at 3:00 for all the family to sit down and watch.
You think it needs maybe some gore and some penetration shots, and then it would just be an art house?
Well, yeah, to bump the rating up so that it protects the people from the people that like children who would watch this and think, oh, he's my hero, and they go, punch,
dislocate my shoulder, murdering a woman.
Yeah, in the playground. So yeah, I think he's someone who is one of these negative stereotypes that has survived when everything else has become unfashionable, and because it's that whole kind of Bond, and I think still a lot of male action hero characters are still trying to aspire to be a kind of Bond-like person, and therefore, if Bond seems like the person that every man wants to become, they want to travel the world and have no ties and stuff like that, and that's a worrying thing, I think.
Yeah.
Still more interested than Jason Bourne.
Yes, absolutely. I find the Bourne movies really... I think I fell asleep in all of them. Which I know I'm not meant to. I'm meant to like them, aren't I?
Yeah.
Every now and again I'll check on my big list of people who like cinema are meant to do this. It's, really? I'm meant to like the Bourne films and not find them really dull and quite...
I found that I liked the first one.
Right, that's the one. I remember something about Minis. Is it Minis, or there's some sort of car chase? Is it Volkswagens? Something. There's a car chase with small cars. Yeah. And is that the one with the tornado and the house and the green woman?
No, that's the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, right. What might have happened is I might have fallen asleep. In the Bourne Identity and woken up, much as you may have done with Knowing.
Well, that could be. Have you seen Knowing?
Is that the one with the house?
I see, because I'm not going to go back and watch it, but I think you should go back and watch it just to test that whether I fell asleep or not.
But then that would involve me sitting and watching the whole film, which is an unusual punishment.
But as an experiment for Total Cult audience, I think it's something that you should do.
What do you reckon, people out there? If you feel
they can't answer back.
No, I know, but they can do comments on the thing under the thing. This is an interactive media. They can. I know that
but no one is doing.
No, at the moment it looks like that's the thing where you put things you've forgotten and you sort of add them.
Correct my many errors.
But technically, people could actually answer us.
Right.
And say, yes, I've seen Knowing, and that is how it ends. Gogol is right.
Yeah.
Or they could say, no, you've fallen asleep.
So our big kind of debate starter is, should one of the podcasters watch a film that was neither good enough to be successful nor bad enough to flop horribly and is just kind of forgotten in obscurity?
I've never seen Das Boot.
Right.
And Das Boot is regularly listed as one of the 25 greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
If you really want me to sit down and watch Knowing when I've never seen Das Boot, it's one of those things that really is a life checklist at the end, isn't it? Never saw Das Boot. Did watch Knowing. I've already seen the Wicker Man remake, as I think we established earlier.
Yes.
So when it comes to pissing away sections of my life with no regard whatsoever, as if I somehow had some eternal, an eternal list of hours that was never going to end. I've already done my fair share of weeing my life down the toilet. If you want me to watch Knowing, to add to that, and then, if decades down the line you're standing at my funeral and you think, he could have spent that 2 hours doing something else and I robbed him of it. If that's what you want, then maybe that could happen.
Please.
Really? Okay.
Or how about we throw it to the Total Cult listeners?
Please, someone save me from this torturous fate and write something under this saying whether Gogol is deluded as to the ending of
if
Knowing.
it was right the ending, but that 10 minutes I missed actually explained it all really, really nicely and well, and either or. Anyway, we were slagging off the Bourne films.
We were, yes. You're enjoying that?
Yes. Well, no, because I like the first one. I think it works. I think the second one is the exact same film, but with all the things that made the first one interesting gone.
The little cars,
the
house, the tornado,
memory,
the green woman,
because the setup with him finding these skills has gone. So it's just him using good, but not really sure why. But doing the exact same stuff he did in the first one.
I think it's possible I haven't seen the second one. I've definitely seen the first one. I've definitely seen the third one.
Yeah. Oh, and the second one has less action scenes in as well.
Right.
So it is just very dull. And in the third one, I think there are a couple of really great moments. I love the scene in the train station where he's guiding.
Yes.
I think that's good.
Because it got a sound editing Oscar nom, didn't it? And I must admit, because I watch all the Oscar-nominated stuff every year, and I only watched it because of that, because I hadn't found the other one particularly interesting. But I thought the sound on that was fantastic.
Yeah.
It is really... That's really interesting, and I thought, maybe I misjudged the other one, and then immediately got bored again after that sequence had finished. But
then I think the fight scene, 2/3 of the way through, I think is really, really good.
Right.
And so I think if you took those two sequences out and just cut them into the first film, you'd have a good spy film.
Right.
But 3 films of Matt Damon wandering around with a headphone in one ear and looking at his BlackBerry. That's not 3.
Is that a euphemism?
No. That's I hope not. They trapped in a door or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't think that's enough for a film, really.
No.
Let alone 3.
Do you think there's a subtext? Because I've realised that we've strayed from our subtext. Is there a subtext?
No, we haven't, because we're talking completely in subtext, and we'll leave it to people to work out what it is we're talking about, and then inform us.
That's true.
Because
is there a subtext to our podcasts? My voice went a bit squeaky. Podcasts.
I don't know.
Are we fiercely anti-intellectual?
I think the subtext is not something that's intended.
No.
It's just something that we maybe will look back on in a few years' time and think, oh dear.
Yes.
There are obvious prejudices. I can't even pronounce it. Prejudices hidden there.
You think?
You
worry that you expose your obvious prejudices?
No, I'm worried that, not that I expose things I have, because I don't necessarily have them, but that things might come across that way, through things that we say rather haphazardly.
So you're worried about people judging what you feel based on what you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
You can see their point, though.
Yeah, and for me to worry about that and chosen the format of podcasts to communicate is probably a poor choice. No, I don't think we have a subtext, really. We're not getting at anything.
No, I think so.
The point of the website is to celebrate things that normally get looked down upon.
Yes.
And
we haven't done a lot of celebrating today. We've slagged off Doghouse, we've slagged off Knowing, we've slagged off all the Bourne films.
Okay.
We've been recurringly rude about James Bond because that's what we normally do. I've slagged off the Wicker Man remake. Have we said anything positive about anything?
Well, no. Let's then look at subtext that work really, really well. I may have mentioned this before. I don't think on the podcast, but I think the X-Men, both in comic form and in the films, is one of the most perfect allegories ever constructed. I think it's, although in the kind of era it's been developed, it won't be. But in terms of, I think it's right up there with the Tales of the Greek Gods and a lot of the core mythology for all religions. I think it's a great tale, and I think Stanley, as I definitely have mentioned to you before, should be studied in schools. I think it's brilliant.
I think he will be. I think in the future, as soon as it's got that air of respectability that the past brings something. I think you're absolutely right.
And I think, and what really cemented me as it being perfect, and this is very, very bizarre, and this is a bit of positive stuff that you wouldn't expect, was from X-Men 3, the Brett Ratner film. not from the film,
No.
from a press conference that took place,
Right.
where Brett Ratner, who said nothing of interest, it was Halle Berry.
That's the definition of a redundant sentence. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Brett Ratner said nothing of interest.
Yeah.
Is what?
It was Halle Berry, Ian McKellen, and Hugh Jackman, and they were talking about the plot of X-Men 3 as they find a cure for the mutant strain. Now, for those of you that don't know, but I'm sure most of you will, the whole mutant thing is an allegory for any kind of group of people that are discriminated against.
Yeah.
So, generally speaking, considering it was done during the 60s and Xavier, Professor X, was meant to be Martin Luther King, and
Right.
Magneto was supposed to be Malcolm X, the race issue is quite big. There's also the kind of adolescent thing about emerging powers at a certain age as well in there. And during this press conference, for the plot of X-Men 3 being that there is a cure found and that some mutants want to take it and some don't, it got quite heated. And Ian McKellen and Halle Berry were saying that, that the idea of a cure is offensive because I would not want to cure myself, I'm doing air quotes, of...
They were really big air quotes as well,
Yeah.
about 2 foot each.
Yeah, I will not want to cure myself for being black.
Yeah.
And Ian McKellen... But then Hugh Jackman said, well, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but, there are some instances where you would. And I think what's great about that is that it forces people not to look at discrimination against groups of people, but discrimination about individuals.
Right.
So someone who, for example, has an illness or some kind of physical attribute that they think restricts them might want to, even though that is part of their identity, might want to rid themselves of it and create a new one.
Yeah.
Whereas people who are of a particular race or sexual orientation would want themselves defined by that and would not want to cure it. So I think, and most problem with discrimination is that you take a group of people who are completely different from each other, but are only linked by one core thing, either their sexuality, and then you assume that they want the same things.
Yes, on the basis of person A thinking this, person B does because they share one trait.
Yeah.
Which is also the basis of any sort of prejudice.
Well, which is the ironic thing. It's why discrimination starts in the first place.
Yeah.
So for Stanley to start something which doesn't have a kind of closed solution, but that just through the exploration, through handing down different writers, different people come up, to actually come up with what is essentially a solution for discrimination, that you just judge people as individuals. For a book about people in tights punching each other, so it's still actually fun and not preachy, is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like a 40-year-long story that turns out to be a perfect morality tale, all wrapped up, thanks to the Halle Berry and Ian McKellen and Hugh Jackman getting in there. Which, when you think about, and what some people still think of comic books, it's pretty amazing that some Hollywood actors and talking about comic book have solved discrimination, thanks to Stan Lee putting that kind of planting that seed. So I think that's a subtext that
we can all enjoy it.
That we can all enjoy and all learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's a message to our show, maybe that's it. We are all individuals, and God bless us, everyone.
Yes, which is why. So was that was quite a good ending.
It was. That was kind of where I was going with it.
I'm going to tread water for a bit longer. We've got 3 minutes. It's 2 minutes.
Have we? I thought we normally ended.
Well, no, I was going to say that's what Total Cults is about. It's not about saying these are B movies, these are exploitation films. It's judging each film by its own merits and judging whether it succeeded what it was trying to do, rather than necessarily comparing it to other things. Apart from the Bourne films, which are trying too hard to be something they're not.
And any films with Nicolas Cage in. Except for Con Air and Wilder Heart.
Yes.
Other than that, has he done other good ones? Leaving Las Vegas.
Well, he's always good, I think.
Really?
Well, he might not be the same good as the rest of the film he's trying for.
No.
But he's always doing something that's fun. Do
you mean in between the takes? I'm sure he is doing something that's fun on set somewhere. But
he pulls lots of funny faces.
He does. Has some amazing hairstyles.
Exactly. I enjoy Nicolas Cage, whatever he's in, regardless of the film, or whether him doing that, he's adding anything to anything. He's still watchable. Which is a worse ending than where you can tell.
So we like Nicolas Cage. So God bless us, everyone. You've been listening to Total Cult. I've been James Trick.
I've been Dr. Gogol.
We think you're ace, and we'd like you to have a lovely day. Bye bye.